Well, it's now time we go straight to the papers and see what they have for us today, this lovely morning. And for review, as always, we have 7 papers. We have The Punch, The Vanguard, The Guardian, as much as we'll be looking at the Nigerian Tribune, The Nation, Daily Sun, and Daily Trust. Trust, I will always want to start with The Punch, and let's see what The Punch has as a major one on its front page this lovely morning. And on The Punch this morning, the lead story reads, How IGP Special Forces Arrested Our Controversial PIIC head is a major one right there. And the riders to follow inside the 1-week manhunt that led to Adeyemi's arrest. Abuja High Court postpones arraignment until September the 30th. And NBA orders push for evidence-driven investigation. And we're still talking about the fake agency scandal. And I'll tell you to get more of that story up on page 2. Let's see if we get some other leading stories right there on the front page of The Punch. Federal government ends UN-led humanitarian coordination. It's a screamer on page 7. Reps dump on state bill, police bill, adopt Tinubu's version. And page 9 has that story. But we're looking critically at this later on dialogue. What we dialogue around it. Or your adoption, Senate, SGF Fort Makidi's United Nations probe demand. And I'll demand you to read that story up on page 8. 2027 race, INEC recognized Atiku and 470 ADC candidates is also a screamer on the front page of The Punch on page 9. Let's see if we take some other leading ones still on the front page of The Punch this morning. Ride booking triggers airport taxi row. And you can understand what that means on page 30. But a major one on page 4. Manhunt begins for killers of Lagos NURTW leader. And federal government grants Shell 11.5 million barrels or dollars barrels tax credit to unlock about $20 billion investment. And whoa, that business and sharing news you can get on page 3. But the picture of the day and a story you can also read on page 7 is Tears Joy as adopted Oyo peoples reunites with parents. And what better way than the joy a mother will express receiving back her child after close to 60 days not being at home. Well, anyway, I'm at home with this. So happy, and I'm so happy for them. But that's how much you can take from The Punch.
Let's check out stories making round on the Guardian newspaper this morning. And on the Guardian, the lead story reads, Fuel jumps by 100 naira later as Dangote shifts $1.84 billion FX burden to marketers. It's a major one on page 6. And PFIPC calls grow for Senate. Bajabiamila probe as police arrest Adeyemi is on page 3. Reps query OAGF over deductions from MDS stationary funds. The major one still on page 3. Akpabio, Abbas defend decision to prioritize Tinubu state police bills, still a major one on page 3. Let's see if we can get more of the leading ones still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. UN scales down humanitarian intervention, hands over to institutions, the major one on page 29. Weather forecast predicts daily rain for the next 10 days. Wow. Can get more of that details on page 2. APC NWC overrules Aliyah Ayedatiwa on candidates list on page 5. Battle for regulation may cripple power reforms, NERC warns. Can get more of that on page 7. Orire kidnapping. Senate lawyers, CSOs divided over McKinsey's push for UN probe. Can get more of that on page 6. And the picture of the day, we'll be taking the second one. Seems to be a 2 major one on the front page, but we'll be going with the second one, talking about the Minister of Finance, a coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, MD CEO and Transat PLC, Mr. Ni, and ED Government Relations and Special Projects, E-Transat PLC, Mr. Bubakar, during a courtesy visit to the Ministry of Finance in Abuja. Well, with that, as much we can take from the Guardian newspaper.
Well, The Nation will be the next paper for us to quickly look at. Actually, extra on the paper this awesome, lovely morning. And on The Nation, Makinde under fire over call for United Nations probe of a raid adoption. And the writer to follow, Senate SGF, United Nations envoy Fayose knock governor as a San UN Lord's jurisdiction. And well, anyway, we'll just try to see how that can play out, but I'll tell you to read more of it on page 3. Let's see if we take some other leading stories still on the front page of the Nation this morning. Pencon holds on to police pensioners. It's a major one on page 11. And the executive bill on state police get House of Reps. And you can get more of that story up on page 39. But remember, I promise we'll be looking at this later on Dialogue. Global market leadership validates president's reform is also a screamer on the business side on page 39. And federal government begins vocational training for 18,000 Nigerians. And that sharing news you can get on page 6. The City Boy movement plans mobilization of 10 million youth votes is also a screamer on page 6. But let's see if we take some other leading ones still on the front page of the Nation this morning. Fake agency chief arrested in Osun hideout and he's finally charged. Riders to show. Court fixes September 30th for arraignment. The 8th count charge. If you want to know all of that, read up on page 2. Shall get tax relief on $20 billion at Deepwater project. Crude price climbs to $86 per barrel over Strait of Hormuz blockage. And you know Iran and US are running around that, but get it on page 2. Xenophobia. Evacuees from South Africa is now 1,426 as last batch of 315 arrives on page 6. But I'd rather take the main picture of the day, and that is Water of Life from the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu, and FCT Minister for State. We're talking about Dr. Mohammed during the inauguration of the 198-kilometer water pipeline network in Buhari, Abuja yesterday. Well, indeed, wow, they seem to be enjoying that glass of water. Do I need one myself? But anyway, that's the much you can take from the Nation.
Still on Dailies, let's check out stories making it to the headline on the Nigerian Tribune. And on the Nigerian Tribune, the lead story read, go after all the bandits, terrorists nationwide, Senate tells federal government and the riders to follow, cautions Makinde to stop trivializing government's efforts, Oyo Assembly backs government on call for UN probe, Orireo, hospital discharged 25 out of 39 on admission. You can get more of that on page 3 and page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. And still on the front page, above the plate name, ADC demands Nafia Palace prosecution over alleged forgery of INEC documents. So measure 1 on page 24. Lawyers, politicians differ on appeal court ruling on implication of ADC primaries. Can get more of that on page 3. Police arrest fake PFIPC DG at Deyemi in Osun State. So measure 1 on page 3. Last of can get more of the leading ones still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Lassa fever deaths rise to 219 as cases hit 891 in 23 states. Well, quite a disturbing one on page 4. Customs discovered 26.5 billion naira illicit drugs inside imported cars at Apapa port. Is on page 26. Passengers and operators lament as waterways transportation fares soar. Is on page 27. And on health, Ultrasound may help prevent arthritis after joint injuries, according to researchers. You can get more of that details on page 13. Digital literacy drive gains momentum as Odu's Investment Foundation graduate cohort 1 trainees is on page 11. Reps drop own state police bill, consider Tinubu's proposal. Refer bill to special ad hoc committee on constitutional review. Or you can get more of that on page 13. Let's quickly see the picture of the day. Well, the picture of the day is that of the former Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, and Maker, Leader, House of Representatives, Julius, and Senate Leader Kweyemi Bamidele, Chairman, Senate Committee on Agriculture, and others during the National Assembly Open Week 2026 on Tuesday. Well, that's much we can take from the Nigerian Tribune.
Well, it might not be sunny out there, but Daily Sun is where we're going to. Well, and on Daily Sun, the lead story reads, the Senate to federal government intensify military operations against terrorists. And the riders to follow, asks Makinde to withdraw call for United Nations probe of Ogbomoso school abduction. Reps rescind state police bill, pass VAT proposal for second reading. And I'll tell you to read up that story up on page 6. And let's see if we take some others. ADC rift worsen as faction threatens article legal action. Ask INEC to remove David Marks National Working Committee from portal. And that page 6 has also that story. What's also on page 6? Party primaries we legislate against ourselves, says Akpabio. as tax lawmakers on effective representation. And you can get that story, like I said, on page 6. But let's see if we take some other leading ones. Oil hits 1 month high of $86.76 per barrel as United States and Iran conflict escalates. And get more of that story up on page 25. National Youth Service Corps threatens to blacklist hostile core employers over welfare and accommodation. And I feel it's about time. And you can get that on page 6, or 26 rather. Presidency reaffirms commitment to productive relationship with National Assembly as Senate passes 3 House concurrence bill, advances FMC and Argungu bill on page 27. PFIPC saga, police arrest Adeyemi as he fails to appear in court. And we learned he was arrested in Osun State. But get that story up on page 4. The picture of the day is that of former Deputy Senate Speaker, House of Representatives, Emeka Ihudora. Well, it's long I saw him. And House of Representative Julius Iorire. And the Senate leader, and a whole lot of them yesterday were for the Senate President and unveiling the 3rd year scorecard performance review of the 10th House of Representatives in Abuja yesterday. Well, that's the much we can take from the Daily Sun.
Trust you're having a good time here on Dailies this morning as we look at Daily Trust newspaper. And on the Daily Trust, the lead story read, Phantom Council DJ detained as Gbajabiamila listed as witness. The story continues on page 4 and 5. And the rescued Oyo pupils in teachers reunite with families is the sharing one on page 8. Parents demand justice over alleged assault of 5-year-old Delta. Wow, quite a disturbing one on page 8. 3 parties failed to submit presidential candidate as INEC short portal. Still on page 13 of the Daily Trust. Let's see if we can get more of the leading ones still on the front page of the Daily Trust. Federal government has planned intervention power in state police bills. This page 6 seems to have the story, and the picture of the day is that of the rescued Orire pupils and teachers with the families at the Laduke University Teaching Hospital of Ogbomoso, Oyo State, just yesterday. Well, that's much we can take from the Daily Trust.
Well, let's see if the Vanguard will be the next and last paper for us to look at, as we've looked at other papers together. And on the Vanguard this morning, the lead story reads, Police nab DG Adeyemi in Osun Village hideout. Oh, the village he went to. We're still talking about the PFIPC. Riders to follow as court orders his arrest for failing to appear. Fixes September 30th for arraignment. And I'll tell you to arrange more of that story up on page 5. Let's see if we take some other lady stories here on the front page of the Vanguard. Oyedele pushes for result-driven reform, stronger regional tax. It's also on page 19. Why Tinubu did not call Makinde over Arire's rescue. Just according to the Secretary of the Government of the Federation on page 30. ADC insists appeal court verdict has no effect on presidential ticket. And I'll tell you to get more of that story up on page 9. Let's see if we take some other leading ones. Why Nigerians' database still fragmented despite NIMC's claim. And I tell you to say, get more of the reason on page 10. Tinubu transmits state police constitutional amendment bill to reps. Like I promised earlier, we'll be looking at that later on dialogue, but get it up on page 8. INEC chair seeks more funding for elections. And page 40 has more of that story. Xenophobia, South African returnees recount ordeal as 350 Nigerians returned today in the final evacuation. And page 9 has more of that story. But you know, I always enjoy the Mr. and Mrs. column. And let's see if we just go on the lighter note. Well, funny enough, Mr. has the first say today. What's the matter with your friend? Mike is in love, Namisha, with her, and she's giving him the cold shoulder. Well, tell him to ignore the shoulder. There are other interesting parts of human anatomy. Madam, I agree. But anyway, let's see what the picture of the day is. And that is, sorry looking at Deyemi after his arrest. Well, anyway, the confidence seems not to be there. But who am I to say? But anyway, what I know I will say is that that's how much we can